Good evening, and welcome to the first episode of Being Intentional. I am your host, LaFrederick Burns, and in this episode, I'm going to basically introduce you to what this podcast is all about. All right, so let's get into it. Being intentional is all about living a life of purpose, living a life going after those things that you know that God has placed on your heart and those things that are important to you, living a purposeful life and a life of meaning. As I air more episodes of this podcast, I'm going to tell you more about my story and how I came about being intentional and what it means to me and what I'm doing in my life to live out this purpose that God has placed me on this earth for, and give you some helpful hints and tips so that you can move towards that direction in your life. I also plan on having some guests as I develop topics for September. This is the month where many organizations work towards suicide prevention. So I will be sharing my experience with suicide, and I have some other topics that I know you guys are really going to be interested in. So I want to keep going and talk to you about where being intentional came about in my life. So it was probably about a year ago. Anybody that knows me knows that I've been a big guy most of my life. At least all of my adult life, I've been on the heavier side. So I've been on this weight loss journey for quite some time now. And over the last year or so, it's gotten real intense. And when I say real intense, I mean that things have developed in my life where I'm starting to see the results of all the hard work that I've been putting in all these years. And in that, at some point, I started using the hashtag be intentional or being intentional. And for me, it just kind of caught on. Over the last year, I've continued to tag my photos and videos on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok with being intentional or be intentional, especially when it was related to my weight loss journey. Well, it was a couple months ago that I was in the midst of one of my workouts, and Travis Green's song Intentional was playing, and that song just talks about how God is intentional about everything that he does in your life. Well, God actually spoke to me and told me that being intentional doesn't just apply to one area of your life. It applies to every area of your life. So that really woke me up and caused me to go harder. Not only after that, but after so many other things that I wanted to see improve in my life. And since then, I have seen dramatic leaps and bounds of improvement, and people have taken notice, and people having been inspired by what they've seen in me. So with all that, God placed it on my heart to go ahead and start this podcast, and I will admit that it's been sitting with me for about a month or so now, and for the last couple of weeks, I've been trying to get around to recording this particular episode, and just been procrastinating or having other things get in the way of doing it. So at this very moment, I'm actually outside walking, doing my evening walk. Every evening I do at least a mile walk, and I'm recording this while I'm walking. So if I sound like I'm out of breath, that will be why. Because right now I'm being intentional about this weight loss journey, and I'm also being intentional about following God's plan and direction for my life, which is sharing my life experience and his word with you guys. And if I'm being very truthful with you guys, I really didn't want to be out here right now. This has been a very, very hard week for me for a number of reasons. And I'm not going to get into all those reasons, but the devil has really been attacking me left and right this week. And it was so easy for me to just continue to lay around. I just finished my class. I'm almost finished with my associate's degree. So I have an accounting class tonight. I just finished that. And I looked up at the clock, and I realized the time was getting away from me. And the more it was getting away from me, the more I looked at my watch and realized I didn't even have 1,000 steps for the day. And the more I was just like, you know what? Forget it. I'm just going to sit here and not even worry about it. I'm going to take a day of rest. But then, that's not being intentional. I thought about the fact that the other day, I took a break because I did two $20,000 step days within like a 3 or 4 day period. So my body needed that rest, but my body didn't need this rest. It was me just being lazy, just being discouraged by everything that I'm going through and not really wanting to get up and get out here and do these steps. But God kept pressing me because the devil has really been trying to attack me today. And I almost did something today that could have derailed God's whole plan for my life. For those that know that I have been caring for my father has been living with me for the last year, and his health has been declining pretty much the entire time that he's been here. He wasn't as healthy as he presented himself when he asked could he come stay with me a year ago. And over the last year, my sister and I have been pushing him to do better about his health. And there's certain things that he does that he knows he's not supposed to do, but he does them anyway. And because he's an adult, we allow him to make his own choices and his own decisions, but we continue to explain to him how his choices and decisions have an effect not just on his life, but on the lives of those around him. And he continues to be selfish in that. And just over the last 2 or 3 weeks, I've noticed a change in his level of consciousness or his cognitive abilities. And I kind of am beginning to think that he has made a U-turn in his growth and healing process, and he may have returned to substance abuse. When it would have started, I'm still kind of confused about that. I'm still trying to get clarity on it. He continues to deny it, and today things hit ahead and almost put him out on the streets. But the compassion in me finds it hard to see somebody that I know and I love and I care about out on the streets, even though they don't love and care for themselves or anybody else. But this is a mission that God has me on right now, and I have to be intentional about it. If not for me, then for those that God has placed in my life to witness everything that I'm doing for someone that wasn't there for me throughout my life. Now, make no mistake, there's nothing that I do or nothing I can do in my life that's meant to gain the attention of others. I never do anything specifically to get anybody's attention. I'm not looking for anybody to praise me or pat me on the back for the things that I do. However, there are certain people that God has assigned to my life that are watching the things that I do in my life, because that's what God has ordained to happen in our relationship. And if I make a misstep in any way, then I'm not only affecting my life and my father's life, I'm affecting those lives as well. And I can't do that. So yes, right now I am walking through my neighborhood. I'm doing this not only to get the steps I need for today, I'm also doing this to help me de-stress, which is part of being intentional about this particular area of my life. And I'm doing this so that I don't negatively impact anybody that God has assigned to me by making the mistake of putting this man on the streets that is clearly selfish and don't want to do right by himself or those that God has ordained to help him. But anyway, that's enough about my father. That's enough about why I sound like I'm out of breath. I am going to continue my walk for the evening, but I do want you guys to go ahead and subscribe and be sure to follow me on all platforms, Creatively Me, at Creatively Me _. That's for Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And then my handle on Snapchat, which I'm rarely on, is LaFreddieB, LAFREDDIEB. Again, I'm rarely on TikTok, but you might occasionally see this mug across your TikTok screen. Your Snapchat screen. If you have any questions or concerns that you would like for me to address on being intentional, please feel free to inbox me, contact me, and I will definitely address those questions live. And if you would like to be a guest on my show, don't be afraid to email me as well. In the meantime, I am going to go ahead and sign off for this episode, and be tuned to check in for more episodes to come. God bless. You have a great evening.